Prepare to hear something just vile.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video includes sensitive topics such as trafficking and SA, which may be distressing for some viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
My nonprofit works a lot with the foster care system, and I'm here to tell you guys how closely the foster care system and human trafficking are related. It appears that the foster care system's goals is not to get children adopted into foster families. I've talked to countless kids and foster parents who had a foster child move into their home, and they started to get close and bond. And maybe about 2 years, they're really loving each other and trusting each other, and the parents are trying to adopt them. And in that time, all of a sudden, boom, 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 knock on the door. It's a social worker with a garbage bag telling the kids, put all your stuff in this trash bag. We're taking you with us. Just as the kids were starting to open up and trust and feel like they had a home, they're ripped out from this home. 60% of children in foster care system end up in human trafficking. The media is completely silent on this.
Allegedly, there is a darker side to CPS that has people talking all across the internet. What are people seeing that has left them so skeptical, and why do these allegations keep resurfacing year after year? We'll take a closer look at some of those concerns, but before we begin, it's important to be clear. We are asking questions and exploring, not accusing.
Prepare to hear something just vile. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, had a vetting process so flawed that they approved the transfer of innocent children to a man that provided an address of a strip club as his area of residence.
You became aware that you got 329 children that are sent to the same address. Who else knew about that?
The entire executive leadership at Health and Human Services knew about it, as well as the Office of Inspector General and the HSI.
But they continued to send children because we know the numbers went up even after I had reported this to the leadership. I remember this particular one. I had stayed up all night putting this PowerPoint together to make sure that, I had put together all of the evidence, that it was in one package, and that leadership could then, make a decision based on all of the data that was put together in the one PowerPoint.
So were additional children being sent there even after it was identified that we had 100 children there, 200 children there, 300 children there?
Yes, Senator, I think that before I left the site that number may have been up to 500 plus.
So no real evaluation from there other than just keep sending them because that gets them out of here.
Yeah, no, the PowerPoint that I put together to demonstrate what was happening, they said was speculative. And I think they told Tara that she had cultural bias, something like that, but they did not take it seriously.
So, y'all, we got to ask ourselves, what do we owe the children that nobody searches for? What do we owe those that are aging out of a system that never protected them in the first place? They hit the streets. Foster care reform is not a political talking point. It's a life and death sentence for so many children.
Report shows more than 950 children in foster care vanished in Missouri.
950 kids in Missouri. Well, I live in Western North Carolina in Cherokee County. You can look this up. We don't call it CPS here. We call it DSS. But our DSS attorney in this county made a fake legal document and stole 42 children from their parents. 42! Some of them have never been found because people took them out of state. 42 kids were taken from their parents and pressured by CPS. And if you think that just happens here, no, it doesn't. It happens in Texas. I've seen it on TikTok. And that happens in Arizona. I know a lady in Arizona who just called for help from the CPS people. She was just a single mom, needed help. They took her kids. It happens across this country. We got Roe versus Wade. We've got the school boards under control. We need to go after CPS and DSS in these states because they traffic in children. And they will take your children for nothing because they can.
If you find yourself wondering where Diddy got all of those girls from, look no further than the American foster care system. 55 children go missing from foster care every single day in America. That equals over 20,000 children annually. In a system that serves less than 500,000 children. Any given year, there's about 425,000 children in the American foster care system. Can you imagine any other system that's supposed to look out for the welfare of children that is allowed to lose 55 kids a day? Can you imagine if schools lost children at this rate? What happens is a lot of these kids are labeled as runaways. Their foster families make no efforts to go looking for them or their caseworkers, and they fall victim to human trafficking, about 50%. And they end up in cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami that are huge ports for international human trafficking because they have international airports. And if you've been to one of these airports, then you probably see anti-human trafficking signs in the bathroom. Children in foster care who have been displaced through foster care don't have the same safety nets. They don't have the same amount of adults looking out for them and advocating for them. Children who've been in foster care are far more likely to fall victim to human trafficking. So again, where do you think Diddy got those girls from? What system allows 55 children to go missing a day?
Here we go. All right, first up, we have 60% of child sex trafficking victims are from foster group homes. That's from the FBI, okay?
I personally think it's important to distinguish between a child being trafficked after leaving the foster care system versus a child being trafficked by the system itself. But one fact that is undisputed is that a total of approximately 35,000 children in foster care go missing every year. This is according to government reports. Now, about 1/3 of those cases are reported, which is just unbelievable. You know, every kid matters. All cases should be reported, if you ask me. Now, 91% of the reported cases end up getting solved. That means that the child is found, but that still leaves at least 23,000 children unreported and unaccounted for. Think about that for a moment. Try and visualize 23,000 children of all ages, races. We're talking about infants, toddlers, teenagers, and 23,000 affected families. And this should raise an uncountable question. And who's to be held accountable for this? Where do these kids just vanish to each year?
I'm talking about those children removed from their homes intentionally for profit. Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid created in 1974 entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act. It offers financial incentives to the states that increase adoption numbers. To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell. Funding is available when a child is placed in a foster home with strangers or placed in a mental health facility and medicated, usually against the parents' wishes. Parents are victimized by the system that makes a profit for holding children longer and bonuses for not returning children.
Texas is failing its foster care children. Texas foster kids trafficked for sex as ring targets those lacking placement. Texas has a repeated history of placing children in foster care into unlicensed placements, including at hotels and random people's houses. Let's read. Human trafficking rings lurk near makeshift housing for abused and neglected children. At least 2 teenage girls in the state's Child Protective Services custody recently walked off from a children without placement location in Bell County and are feared to have been taken across state lines and employed as prostitutes. When CPS can't find a placing agency that will take in a child, the usual path to a foster home, and it's also unable to secure a bed in a licensed treatment center or shelter, it has no choice but to use an unlicensed facility. The state agency often houses such children in motels, rental cars, or facilities donated by churches, foster care providers, and other organizations. Imagine you were removed from your family because of issues stemming from poverty alone, and then they placed you in a motel. One girl from Travis County ran off from such a makeshift location in central Texas and became ensnared in sex trafficking. This problem has been spotlighted again and again in a 12-year-old class action lawsuit in which a federal judge has ruled that Texas runs a long-term foster care system that is unconstitutionally unsafe. Well over a decade, Texas has been in this lawsuit, and they have done nothing to improve themselves. It's happening again and again and again in this state. When are you going to do something about it, Texas?
68% of all foster care kids are sexually abused. You cannot progress in the foster system in the U.S. For instance, when a child is logged into CPS, these are levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The higher you are in a level, the higher you are at risk, and the more money facility gets per child. So we range from $352 a day up to $700 and something a day. We're talking about $15,000 a month that a facility can get to take care of one child. But let's say that child is what's called a level 4. That child with about $10,000 a month, that child's not getting restorative services to become a level 3 and then a level 2 and then become adoptable as a level 1. That level 4 child will never be adopted. The system doesn't allow him. The second you take 10 level 4 children to level 3, you lose about $40,000 a month. Then you look into how CPS in Texas has been privatized. CPS facilities are actually LLCs owned by private entities. Then you look into 60% of them funded through Chinese money. So now you've got Chinese building CPS facilities. It's a human trafficking program. They're benefiting financially off of our nation's dispositioned and disadvantaged youth.
As a caseworker, I had these quotas, and we were told that if we didn't bring kids in, then we would be fired. And the way that the funding is set up is that they have to reach a quota.
Is there anything stopping them from grabbing anyone's child to meet that quota?
No, because there's really not any oversight. It's basically the caseworker that determines that need. And you're encouraged to do this because you're going to get more money for more behaviors. So your base child, you're not going to get as much for. But a child that is defiant, a runner, self-harms, you're going to get more for. The way that works is they give the foster parent $65 a day. But if you have a foster parent that knows the system, she would say, that child's behavior is too much. I'm not dealing with that child. You're going to have to give me $75 a day or $100 a day. And you're literally negotiating these rates. So they were diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, and then they're placed on psychotropic medication. What this psychotropic medication does is it actually causes them to be more aggressive and more suicidal.
People realize that 60% of child sex trafficking victims are from foster care. 79% of those in trafficking experience said that it happened while they were in the system. A study in 2016 said that 86% of runaways that ended up being sex trafficking victims were under the protection of foster care and social services. These things aren't coincidences. They've always gone after at-risk youth. They're easier to just label as a runaway and forget about. Their family can't look for them the same way because they were taken from their family and placed with another one. They target kids with trauma because they're easier to groom and easier to manipulate. Kids with unstable living situations are massively more likely to run away. And the risk for kids that have run away being sex trafficked is astronomical. The system is broken. These kids are not protected. These kids are not taken care of. These kids are not prioritized. All kids deserve safety, love, stability. And none of this is any fault of their own. It's not their fault that they were born into a situation that isn't safe. I think it's time we go after the people that are doing sex trafficking.
I don't think people understand what we should be grieving. Everybody should be angry. Everybody should be mad as hell. We protested over LGBTQ. We protested over Black Lives Matter, over Mexican Lives Matter, over Palestinians, over COVID, over a convict. We got in the streets and loud over vaccines and the election. But where is the outrage for the children that are going through this right now under your feet, in your face, in your neighborhood, and right next door to you?
I would love to hear your perspectives, experiences, and opinions on this matter. Do you think we're looking at individual criminal cases involving foster parents, caregivers, and other local agencies, or is this a sign of something more sinister brewing in the system? If you like this kind of comment, please consider sharing, subscribing, and liking, and please look after your kids, look after your kids and take care. Ta-ta.